So a couple of nice questions there around kind of shoes and feet. So you always have to kind of, again, in a group environment, you've got to take it for what it is. So I mean, the honest answer is, for the guys that asked that question, you need to look at the precise history of the player, what their constraints are, what their imbalances are, essentially what problems that you're trying to resolve. So allowing for the precise question. When we look at shoe design initially, I think that still the best shoe we have is skin. Skin's our best shoe. So really the main requirement of the shoe is to let the foot do its job. So I kind of use the playful approach that the more advanced the shoe, the less advanced the foot can become. So the more work the shoe does, the less work the foot's doing. We want to swap that. So typically, I mean, when you look at shoe design, the more you can kind of bend the sole like this, allowing for any individual, obviously, issues that the human may have, the more you can do that, the shoe, the better. Shoes that are quite rigid, especially sort of the heel, is not unusual in some shoes in particular, where you can move the kind of the mid and forefoot, but you can't move the kind of back end. So you really want the shoe to kind of wrap up in a little knot. In essence, that then doesn't constrain the foot from doing what the foot likes to do. Going back to orthotics or insoles, I mean, again, it really depends on the individual, what issues they're being exposed to. But invariably for me, orthotics would be kind of plan Z. Let's explore movement, the foot. Is there something which is not allowing the foot to move well? So often, many issues we see at the foot doesn't always mean the foot's the problem. That can either a right foot issue actually comes because of my wisdom teeth again. So my foot adapted because of my jaw years ago. So it's only when my jaw was improved did my foot pain go. So just looking at my foot through podiatry and insoles actually made it worse for me. So again, you look at it, Ben, with the insole. I mean, think about insoles. They made a lot of insoles look at you in gait, walking. They don't look at how the foot moves in golf. So there's always that little trade. How do we look at someone's gait, the walking cycle, but then how do you look at how the foot moves in the golf swing? Either way you look at things, it creates a problem elsewhere. So if we just look at how someone moves in their golf swing, we don't acknowledge they walk 5-6 miles in around the golf, 8-9 km around the golf. So if we just look at how they move here, that's great for this stuff, but does it then help their walking? And then vice versa. A lot of orthotics historically look at walking in gait without the sport. It's almost like you need 2 sets of orthotics, which is simply not realistic. So I would say, unless there's a condition, unless there's a very evident problem which you know connects back to the foot, for me that really is kind of option Z. Let's look at the foot. Is there something globally through the whole body, through the system? Is it just moving nicely through design? Now I think, like all these therapies these days, we're just at that place in life with humans. What can I buy or use to make me get better? The reality is, what can I do to improve how I move? It's a bit like saying with physiotherapy, they're like being led on a bed and being rubbed. Because it's easy, the physio's doing the work for me. No, you stand up, you learn to move well, which is harder. There's a reason why the likes of Willett can do that for 8 minutes. There's a reason why he wears that green jacket. If you think about it. The guys that like being led down and having someone do it for them don't wear those green jackets. So I think it's always on the human. What can I do to improve me? And when I've explored that, are there some external devices that then may help me? I think we've just got so dependent on devices. What trainer aid can I buy? What shoe can I buy? Whatever can I use? What tablet can I take to help me improve? I think it still comes back to the human must look in the mirror. What can I do? And then we start looking at interventions. So I think it's just been a real, it's just where we're at in life. You like devices, which app can I buy? I mean, I think some of these wearable wrist devices are pretty good for some things. Some of the wearable watches you wear these days are great for things like influencing behaviours. Would I ever trust the data? Never. That's looking at pulse rate, not heart rate. They're very different. So using wearable, you don't get, that's pulse rate variability, which is different to heart rate variability. But I think if that can improve someone's sleep behaviour, water intake, mobile phone activity, fantastic. So I think a lot of it is if it improves behaviours, it's great. But I wouldn't use it to accurately look at my physiology. I think, again, what can I do to look at that? So orthotics are great, but it literally is kind of run out of options now. And I think, Hank shared a story about his toe. He had some hip pain, but the hips just responded to the foot. So more and more players these days, I was with a player just before the Open Championship, actually doing a shoe design with him. So more and more guys these days are actually going to kind of tailors or shoe designers to make the mould to give to the manufacturer. So they're getting quite advanced now. So I know those guys have the option, and good for them. They're a bit like having gum shields. They mould the shield around the jaw, and so I think more and more guys now at that end are having the actual shape of the shoe made for them, and then the manufacturer design a shoe for them. So it's a big thing, footwear design. But if the trade you have, does it improve gait? Does it conflict golf? Or big one. So for the little time we have left today, I know a lot of guys had to go to work this afternoon, so you guys have done well to last this long. And I'm very sensitive. I was kind of thinking about this morning. These are massive areas. We've gone through some very evocative subjects today. And I'm very sensitive to you guys around that, but I'm also very, UC knows more than most, I like being honest with people, and I like being very true to people. These are my experiences. It's only me, these are I've been very blessed, and I'm going to continue to work with many very good players. When you see how these guys develop and how they evolve from juniors through to more mature players into kind of real established players, there's real threads that run through all of them. And these are just observations. All those guys I showed you are young kids at those videos this morning, all three of them, have all won fairly recently on tour. And that's all videos apart from the guy at the end was fairly recent. That was them as junior players. There's reasons why these guys do well. So what I try and look at is extract these threads that run through most, regardless of coaching values, training history, environments, opportunities, all these different things we're exposed to. This is just what the good guys do very well typically. And this I was saying to off camera, my frustration. Instagram's great at showing me the guys that they help, not the ones that they mess up. It'd be great if someone shows 10 guys I've messed up this year. That would actually be a more helpful post. We can all, UC knows the story well. I don't use it, a friend of mine does all my online stuff for me. I don't like it, so I get him to do it. But I did do a post last year when I was in the US living. 10 things I got wrong this year, and the abuse I got from people was staggering. They obviously missed the point of the message. It was my way of showing things that I've messed up and how I need to improve these areas. And people just lost it. They couldn't understand why we acknowledge you've got things wrong. But I thought if we share what we've done badly and what's not, that's more helpful to you guys. But Instagram's good about keeping that quiet. And for every one they got great, because that guy's just good at golf, really. They keep the 10 guys that they've really harmed. So I'm very big on that. It's sharing also the areas I've messed up on. And the whole objective side behind this today, Hank, was what UC and I observed last month is quite such a dominant, reoccurring thread amongst most of the guys. How poor that shoulder was, how they all stand a bit like we all do because of that time of day, mate. That's just life, that's not you as a person. How poor they were around that hip, that club delivery, around in so many guys, especially in the US, which is a whole different discussion with the US system, had wrist pain, and what was the response to most of those guys when needed surgery? It was like, oh, it's heartbreaking to hear that. The last thing they need is surgery. They need to move well. But for those guys, it's easy to be let down, have a surgeon do it, there you go, I've had wrist surgery. They hit 50 balls and put the imbalance back in, then what next? There is no, UC and I experienced it many times in Iceland, way back when, and so on. Surgery is option Z.ZZZ, unless there's obviously a condition. So a lot of this is based on that. All those guys complaining about, my physio says I need surgery. Why? Because that system over there is based on, they get paid to be operated on. How's that helping that young lady? It's staggering how some of these systems work.
Didn't we? In Iceland, we had somebody playing mats for wrist pain.
But there's guys that are healthy play off mats and guys that are injured play off grass. You know, the old cavemen used to hit stones every day like this for hours. They didn't have kinesio tape, camouflage colour and cortisol injections because they moved well. They hit that stone with that wonderful wrist position, not Instagram says got to get the wrist extended and you know, good luck being a stonemason with that kind of approach. There's a reason why they don't get wrist pain, those guys, because they move great. So it was really disturbing and quite sad. I felt really sad for those guys that all come back with wrist taped in. They got their surgeries planned and it's all resolvable by doing a good job at day one, just standing well, you know, good control through here. And so a lot of it really came from that today, based on really what you see in particular is observed the last few years around why we get these issues. But I appreciate that some of this stuff is not particularly, it's not cool, and maybe not the most kind of media friendly approach, but it's not about me. I've been lucky to be around 11 major winners now. So I've been very blessed in different formats. And there's a big thread amongst all those guys, is they normally embrace this. Been around multiple guys who've had surgery in their life, and they normally go the other way. So it's just my experiences really, Hank, around this stuff, and I'm very big on that. So for the little bit of time we got left, is there anything you want to go through which you haven't covered? We spoke about November. Maybe I've said very in a dismissive way today. Would you go, Mark? Can you expand on this? So, you know, we're kind of at that time of day now where we can probably just kind of and open up freely. So, are there areas you want to go through more which we haven't looked at, or would like some more some guidance around? If you had some problems perhaps in areas which you maybe like to kind of discuss. So, is there any kind of I always like to build this kind of bit of time in him because you get some really cool stuff come out. And so if anyone's got any kind of thoughts around anything really been hard to kind of really conceptualise today around bits. Benjamin.
We talked about the lead foot and trail elbow quite a lot, but how about the other side of the equation?
Yeah.
Are there anything basically specific, since you based a lot of today's presentation on the trail elbow and how it moves and how it could move and should move, but how about the other side then? Especially I'm thinking the right leg and its movement during the swing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, again, that was very much based on what did we see in July. That just happened to be the main thread. But you also go back to, again, look at how most of you are now standing there. None of you like that right side or that kind of that right side of your body. Most or many adaptations in right-handed players are actually through the right shoulder, right hip and right foot. So most of us through time get pulled forward, hence that drill at the end to push us back again. We get forward through the shoulder, forward through the hip, forward in the ankle. So the subtalar joint comes forwards, the femoral head gets pulled forwards, the humeral head gets pulled forwards. So when you look at like the very good physios I've been blessed to be around over life really, most of the adaptations come from that right side of the body because of the nature of the sport that we play. So in some ways it's kind of just golf and sport with hand influence. So massively, so often if it is in a more balanced education, you talk more around how we move around that trail, hip and ankle and backswing, which we spoke about a little bit around the foot, but it was more downswing based because that was the theme today was what did we see back in July. But massively around improving rotation through that kind of trail foot, trail hip, trail is vital. So most of us are very forwards in the femur. The humerus is forward, so we start to then adapt that lead side as a way of moving around that trail side. So we kind of use that left side as a way of moving around this. So very important. And we also then go back to why is that lead, hip, trail, shoulder so important? Our inherent breath cycles, our body design pulls us this way because of lung size, organ placement, breath cycles. So one of our default adaptations is this, which is why most of us stand up the boys' navel lesson with walking sticks. That's just what we do because it's so easy. But yeah, but in different times you can look at the right hip for sure, massively. But we're so compressed it gets sticky. But nice question. So everybody completely fried on that, and I said to you today, good luck playing golf today. Good luck trying to hit golf balls, you'll be a bit. But I think what I say to most guys, and I say this in every session, I know we did it a lot with the guys last month, once you've kind of, and I try and predict when the player goes, just leave me alone for a bit. And what I said to most players in every session, you now need that quiet corner for 5 minutes just to absorb this. And then you may record that last time, just go and find that kind of quiet space over there and just start to slow it down in your pace and just start to, what does all this mean to me? And I'm hopeful what you'll do over the next little while is you'll start to go, okay, I can just start to know, don't really get that, not really sure about this, but I can really see the value in this stuff, which is kind of how it should be really. There'll be bits you go, I don't know, rightly so. There'll be bits you go, no, I can just start to, but initially just start with you guys. Really explore you. We've kind of lost that self-exploration. Explore being you really, you know, how can I really use this? And then I think you can then relate that more to the guys that you work with. So I think we all need now that little quiet kind of, you know, that quiet walk to the clubhouse in some ways for a coffee, just to go. And I've referenced something you may recall at the start of the day, which is so true. I get annoyed at myself. I perceive that you guys want new information every time I see you. So UC creates a pressure for me. He doesn't know this, but he does. Every time I see UC, I think he wants new information. So I keep forcing myself to find new things to evolve because I think unless they give me new stuff, they don't invite me back. That's the madness of humans. I need to remind myself, what's the good stuff? And a friend of mine at home said to me a while ago, why did you stop doing that? I was like, I just thought you wanted this new stuff. He goes, no, that's what we love doing, what you did 10 years ago. But it took him 10 years to tell me that lesson. He didn't want to upset me. And he goes, no, this is what we love doing. And the more I go back to what's the good stuff, what's the real good things, it still comes back to pretty much today's stuff really. But our perception is every time I see you guys, what's new today? It's like software, what's new in the system. So
That's UC.
yeah, it's his fault though, in a good way. Because you think, unless I give new stuff, they won't ask me back again. So I keep looking at new things, but you forget. Just do the good stuff. Just do the good stuff, and I hope so. It's just doing the good stuff well. And I think I still come back to this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff. A friend of mine taught me something. Do you know Graham Walker? So he was the England national coach, one of my closest friends, Graham. He goes, buddy, just keep giving them the best version of you. It reminds me, Graham, forget that, just give him your best stuff every day. And it's so true that. So Graham is very good for me to remind me, just give him your good stuff. And so I've tried to do that, I hope today. This is the real setup, address, good connection here, good movement here. Henke, anything you want to add on today, or are you happy with
well,
what
maybe
we've done?
just comes into mind, like if we're going back to the kind of things you've noticed with Finnish players,
Yeah.
with juniors and stuff. If
Yeah.
we go from body to the golf club, do you notice some things, or do you have from other players that they have wrong kind of conceptions or concepts in how to use the golf club that kind of
Yeah,
creates those
Yeah.
movement patterns that
Yeah.
you see that aren't maybe the ones that you would like to see? That
yeah. I mean, I
creates
love
bad
that. I
movement.
mean, I love that. It goes back to, and I'll just borrow this club just briefly. I go back, we said it a few times, you know, kids that are great, it's the adults get in the way, which is the issue. I mean, the adult voice often suppresses the inner child voice. Kids have all the answers if we let them explore. So I go back to a lot of young kids in that kind of caveman approach, show me how you would kind of chop that kind of device here. They almost all move well through hand, wrist, through spine and pelvis. You then just start to hit lower down for me. They all start to almost kind of split hand. And how would you, if you was the caveman, kind of, you almost all move well. So you start to kind of invert the problem. And this is a big thing in coaching in particular. Hey, and this is meant in a very friendly way, so please take it this way, because it's aimed at me as well. Most coaches use solutions before they really understand the problem. So we've got very solution-based. Solution, with the hope that one may help. Until we really understand the problem, how do we know what solution to use? And that's why I was saying to UC this morning, everyone just needs to slow down. But it's instantaneous, Instagram, this guy before and after images, we've all been there. He hit 5 balls and I did that. Whoopee, but you don't take, the player's not made it in comments, you have. Ready that they ask the player to actually video what it meant to them, but that's a whole different discussion on Instagram. And so unless we really know what we're trying to resolve, how do we know what solution to use? We've got this perception, it's got to be 2 minutes. I had a guy coming over there, we did a 7-hour session, great. Guy from France came over, we did 7.5 hours together. He had to stop me at the end. I was writing to him, because we just got into such cool stuff. So I would look at it that way, Hank, that, okay, so baseline, if you were chopping that or whatever as a 2-year-old and you're whacking your brother's ankles, show me how you'd like to move him back to the best move that way, rather than like this. Funny that. Okay, so how can you stand at address and the best move that way? Well, I'd stand like this. I've yet to find any young player to a level into an element of accuracy, not then stand well, move well to allow that to happen. So kind of just giving them a chance to explore really. You know, they had the answers, just how would you keep invert, so to move that way, how could you stand? So to stand that way, how could you hold? And most kids get it right. Okay, you need to refine them, you need to adjust them, that's coaching in some ways. At what point do you then start to guide them? And certainly I think whilst the players explore and say nothing, they'll look at you and go, they kind of give you that look, but whilst they're doing that, they kind of, they find their way. Adults are the problem, aren't we? We are the problem. Happy?
Yeah.
You, anything you want to add, mate? Or?
No, just on that, a couple of cases actually, players come to mind who either have been or are injured, young players, spine, wrist. And a lot of it is caused by, I think, miscommunication or misunderstanding what the coach is actually trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
One case in particular really stands out. The more I think about it, it's like, I understand what you're trying to do, but just how you're going about it is just not helpful. And then, when the player actually replays it back, what have we been asked to do?
Yeah.
Think, well, kind of see how that would go about.
Yeah. It's exactly right, that often what you're trying to do is what creates the problem. I get kids to write down what they're trying to do some days, and they get mid-sentence and go, by writing it helps them see the problem. Because you watch kids write down what they're trying to do and they suddenly stop and go, oh. So it's fun stuff, that. But you're absolutely right, UC's right, that they might have the right concept, they might approach, they might get great information, but it's then how they're trying to do it, which is why I'm into that accuracy, being precise, being very refined, adjust, adapt always. So it's really, I again, UC's heard me say this many times, so I apologise to UC, that the more time you spend at the beginning, the less time you spend at the end. I go real slow at the beginning, then you can go real quick at the end. Most guys go quick at the beginning and have to keep going back at the end. So you get there much quicker in life going slower, because you have to then make less adjustments along the way. So spend as much time as you can at the beginning doing it well, rather than inherit a 21 and have to start picking through 3, 4, 5 years of so I go real slow on day 1, and then you can go real quick on day whatever. Everyone happy? Firstly, Hank, thank you for inviting me again, and it's always great to come and spend time with you guys. I really mean that. I love November. I really enjoyed those that day. Now that was a great day. I really enjoyed that. And, that was fun. the stuff we did back then. So thank you for that particularly. Was it 2 days we did?
Yeah, 2 days.
It was a long 2 days. It was great. I love that. And but it's nice, I think, just to kind of start sharing live examples, especially if it happened to be, UC and I were here last month. We got all the case studies of the guys we saw, and I'm sure we'll see much over the guys we see this trip. And but there's always anything I can do to help. You've got Hank and UC have the system here, so use those boys as often as you can, because they have the system available. And all that I share with Hank, and Hank's happy to distribute this,
Yeah,
then
of
you can
course.
have all this today. And you know what I mean, thank you as always. It's just always a privilege to come over, Hank. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you
that.
for
It was
coming.
great.
And
My pleasure. Stuff to
Thank
do,
you.
look. Stuff to do.
Thank you.